Welcome to another episode of the Terry and Frank Show. If you've been tuning in, you know that we've been doing a series on belonging. That's going to continue today. But before we dig into this, let's start with a couple of introductions. I'm Frank Wander. I'm the founder of People Productive. We help companies create environments where the people and company thrive together by using culture as a competitive weapon. Terry?
And hello, I'm Terry Mays. I'm a certified culture engineer with focus on understanding the human side of business to drive value in different organizations.
So, Terry, another episode. Last week, we dug in and said, belonging takes root. This week, it's the roots go deeper. So, how do we get the roots to go deeper if we have new folks on board and we want them to have a deep sense of belonging?
Right. So I think the first thing we've got to focus on is that vulnerability. I can't say the word. It's kind of blah, 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 blah,
Blah, blah, blah.
blah, 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 blah. But vulnerability, it's so important to get, to make people feel like you're being honest with them, that you're being open, you're being transparent. There's some sincerity to what you're doing. You're not just blowing smoke and covering things up and hiding things. People can sense that from you. As
Yeah,
much as people like to feel like they are good at lying and covering things up, your body language always betrays you.
yeah.
So people that are very discerning, that are able to pick up on cues like
I
that, will
do. I
know.
do people.
Yeah, yeah, they
Yeah,
will
they're
know
well
that
armed to
you're
pick all this stuff. They're an incredibly strong sensor, right? They're going to get it
right.
all.
That's right. They'll be able to pick up on it so fast. So you might as well go ahead and be vulnerable. We talked about this vulnerability, but it's not so easy all the time. So we do recognize that. And it's not wise all the time as well. So we found this little picture that I think is just a really good image to show that you don't want to be in this case where
Yeah.
you that sitting duck that's just waiting for something to happen, or you don't even realize that you're the sitting duck. Hey,
And
so
I think this is very important for that new person who is going to put down roots. Because, I would say vulnerability, you want to be very vulnerable around that new individual because that does drive the roots down. It's a sign that you're comfortable with them and, you're extending that, arm of trust out to them. But I would say for a new individual, really size up your environment. There are absolutely Shark Tank type environments. I've worked in them. Not everybody's trustworthy. So know who you're working with, right? But the
right.
fantastic thing is that when somebody who's joined an organization starts to become vulnerable around you, you know their roots are going deeper. They're getting more comfortable. It is a great sign or a signal, I think. I like it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. You can't be vulnerable with everybody, but you do need to find the people that where you can be vulnerable, because it does indeed increase
Mhm.
that cohesiveness of the team. When
Yeah.
people feel like they can share things, sometimes you just need a listening ear. Everybody has something that they're dealing with, something that they're going through. So it's nice to have people at work that you can talk to about things. You have to find that line, so we're not saying just be vulnerable with everybody and tell everybody all your business and lay it all out there.
Mhm.
We're not saying that, but we are saying you need to find some people where you can be vulnerable. And then you also need to have that place where you can share things across the whole team. So there do need to be things where you can be open and honest, transparent. All those things kind of come into play with this, but you want to take ownership for your failures, mistakes. This is another area where people can be more vulnerable. Sometimes it's a little bit hard. People want to feel like they're right all the time, that they never make mistakes, but that's just not human. It's
Yeah.
really not
That's
human.
not
So
human at all.
yeah, you want to take ownership. If you make a mistake, if you say the wrong thing, apologize. If you do the wrong thing, admit that you're wrong. Don't just try to keep covering it up,
Mhm.
but take ownership for it. And it really does enhance that cohesiveness on the team.
Yeah. These are all things that stimulate root growth. And I think that people should be certainly more forgiving when somebody new starts. There's always a time to competency on jobs. We used to always have a rule that mistakes are okay, repeated mistakes are not. But I think in the beginning, you know, repeated mistakes are okay for a little while. You would hope they're none, but let's all be human. They're getting accepted into an environment. They're a little more uncomfortable. You want them to be totally comfortable. And, you can even joke around about it if it wasn't a huge error, right?
Right. Right.
Make fun. Apology and forgiveness are very important parts of stimulating that root growth. And all this stuff works both ways,
Right.
right? They need to be more human. They're more accepted. As they're more accepted, their roots are going to grow deeper into that corporate culture. And I think that's really important.
Yes, absolutely. And you want the leadership to exhibit these traits first, right? So you
Oh,
want
role
your
models.
leaders to lead the way. Exactly. And then as the leaders do, so the people will. The people will follow. They absolutely will. That's just kind of how it works. We're waiting, you're waiting as a new person on the team, maybe a person that's been there for a while. You are waiting for someone to lead the way in vulnerability. And once you start to see people do it, it becomes more comfortable and easy to do it.
Yeah, and people should be conscious of all of these factors we talk about because
Right.
then they can use them as tools. You do want that person to grow roots, deep roots into the culture. You went the time to bring them on board. You want them to fully express who they are. So these things are all tools they can use, and that vulnerability and vulnerable type behaviors are all very important. They
Yes,
really are.
they
And the other
really
thing
are.
is that kind of group responsibility and accountability, right? People taking responsibility for the whole, not just the work they're accountable for, but responsibility for the success of that team as a whole. And that means, you're there to help that person too.
Right. And you want to operate in forgiveness as well. That's part of it. You want to not hold grudges against people when they make mistakes. If they, just don't
Absolutely.
understand something and they come back and ask the same question twice, you don't want to just be so um,
Yeah.
unforgiving or not recognizing that
Rigid.
they just need to hear it again, not just quick to judgment. You want
Not
to be that
everybody
type of
picks up
person.
concepts as quickly as other individuals. Some
Right.
people struggle with certain concepts. And that's to be expected, right? Everybody's different. So yeah, a little more forgiveness in there as they maybe go more slowly up the learning curve,
Right.
happens. They're going to have other gifts that they can bring to the table.
Right. And you don't want to crush that person. You don't want to make them feel uncomfortable when they're growing up the learning curve by comparing them to somebody else. And then now they're going to start to shut down because they feel like, I can't really be honest and open in this group because they're going to throw it back in my face, or they're not going to recognize me as learning or growing at the pace where I learn and grow. So you have to be conscious of all those kinds of things when you're on a team. And as a leader, as people that are your teammates, everybody has to think about this from the same perspective of, am I being vulnerable myself? Am I being open? Am I being transparent? Am I being sincere? Am I being forgiving? All of those traits have to be exhibited by every person on the team.
Everybody. And you should encourage this new person to put down the roots. If you are in a vulnerable workplace and you don't see that they're comfortable enough to be vulnerable yet, encourage it. Say, hey, this is a real vulnerable place. It's okay to, speak up, admit a mistake. Don't worry about it. And encourage them to grow their roots because
Yeah,
that's going to hasten the process,
yes, I
which is
think
very
so.
important. The roots lengthen and grow bigger.
Yes,
So everybody has a role to play, no question about it. Belonging is something that every organization should focus on for everybody. And they should understand this is a process. It's, if you've acquired the right talent, making sure it's in that right environment and you're doing everything you can to stimulate that root growth because you want them to feel great, stay, contribute the most they can. That's what it's all about.
right, right. I think you hit it right on the head. That was a great summary statement.
Oh my God, where'd that come from? Well, I think next week we're going to dig deeper into root strengthening measures. So you should tune back in, think about these different things. Remember, in the very first episode, we covered that belonging is not an emotion, it's a feeling. And you should go back and watch that episode if you missed it, because
Yes,
this is an important concept when you really want to dig into what this is and how you're going to create that deep sense of belonging for everyone, because they deserve a sense of belonging. There's no question.
right. And make sure you guys subscribe to our channel and set the
Uh,
notification bell so you know when we're uploading new content. We are uploading every week, so we don't want you to miss out on anything because, like we said before, these episodes really are sharing things that relate to each other.
mhm.
So you don't want to miss one because you might miss out on something good, and you might need that one.
You're absolutely right. Good reminder. Remember to smack that bell.
Yes,
Subscribe, get all the notifications. We've got a lot of good stuff coming. It's going to be fun.
yes.
Don't be the sitting duck. Terry's absolutely right.
Don't be the sitting duck.
Well, Terry, thanks. Another great episode. You
All
know,
right.
see you next week. Goodbye,
Bye bye.
everyone.